Hello, everyone. Welcome to the DMV Business Show. I'm your host, Otto Sevilla, and today I have a very special guest. I have Phil Risher. Phil is the CEO and founder of Phlash Consulting. Welcome to the show, Phil.
Yeah, thanks so much, Otto. Look forward to being a guest on your show.
Yes. So before we go into the business and everything, I like to get the audience to get to know you as a person a little better. Are you originally from the DC, Maryland, Virginia area?
Yeah, I grew up in Germantown, Maryland. I went to Seneca Valley High School and all the other schools in Germantown. And I actually lived in Germantown until I was 30 years old. Aside from going away to college, I went to school in Pittsburgh.
Okay, so you attended college in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, right outside of Pittsburgh. It's called Geneva College.
Okay.
It's a small school up there. Yeah.
So growing up, you're a longtime MoCo resident, Montgomery County, for those of you who do not know.
Yes.
How was it growing up in Montgomery County?
It was cool. I mean, Germantown is cool. I like it. It's really diverse, which is nice. I met my wife in high school and at Seneca, so it was cool. Yeah, I couldn't ask for anything better as far as like a living with people that, are different than you. It's very diverse, which I love that. So yeah, it was great.
I'll say high school sweethearts then.
Yeah, 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 exactly.
So when you went over to Pennsylvania for college, did she also go over there or she stay local?
Yeah, no, she went to James Madison University in Virginia, and we were a year apart, and I was like, it was nice that we could go to separate schools and kind of like get the college experience, but still dating. But yeah, it was really nice.
Okay.
Yeah,
it was like sort of long distance, I guess.
Yeah, it was long distance, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Growing up in Germantown, do you remember as a kid, Phil, were you into certain sports or activities or subjects?
Yeah, I was big into sports, basketball. I'm short, I'm only 5'7", but I'm pretty good at basketball. So definitely played a lot of basketball. And then I also did band. I was in marching band in high school and college, and jazz band, high school and college, played the trumpet. And I like music a lot. In my high school days, I would do music and stuff for the schools. And so, yeah, I like music. Yeah, I was into all that stuff. I was in SGA. I just liked school and friends and stuff.
That's good. You were very involved in high school.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I worked at Germantown Ruby Tuesdays.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was working there and just, living the high school life. It was fun.
You know what's interesting? I'm starting to notice my previous guest in the show, also in band, playing the trumpet, Tom Miche from Miche Pest Control.
Wow.
A client of mine as well. And he was the last episode. And we were talking about him doing cross country and trumpet because I was mentioning my oldest son, Liam, who's 10, is also in band and doing trumpet. And you just mentioned trumpet as well. I'm like, okay, I guess a trumpet in.
Yeah, it's a good gateway instrument, I guess you would say, because it gets you into playing music, and it's kind of, it's not easy, but it's easier to just like, blow something and then make a sound.
Yeah.
And so you get the gist of it. And then it kind of, for me, it morphed into like playing guitar and other stuff, which was like, gets you into the spirit of music kind of.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was nice.
That's good. So when you went over to college in Pennsylvania, did you already know what you wanted to study, or how was that?
No, I started with management, business management, and then I switched to accounting, and then I switched to economics. But then I was like, I really want to study abroad. So I switched to international business just because I wanted to have the credits transfer.
Sure.
So yeah, my major was international business.
Did you study abroad?
Yeah. I studied in Rome and China. And so in Rome, I was there for 3 months, which was really cool. And we lived in a convent with nuns in Rome.
Wow.
Yeah, that was pretty sweet. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, it was a cool experience. Definitely, it was something that I'm glad that I did, I would say.
Okay. So I guess being in a convent, you were dating. I was gonna say you can't go crazy and wild in Rome.
No, but in Rome, they drink a lot of wine. We were only like 18 or 19. So it was, even the nuns, they would drink wine and stuff.
Oh, wow. So you'll be drinking together with the nuns.
We were partying with the nuns. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, I love that.
Yeah, it was cool. It was fun. Yeah.
How was the experience in China?
It was cool. We were in Beijing, Shanghai, and Hong Kong. So we did a little bit of everything. This was in 2007, 2011 was when I was there. And so, yeah, it was cool. It was definitely, I'd never been to a communist country before. So it was interesting to like learn like, oh, you don't have Facebook. Oh, you don't have Google, like why is that? Why didn't you have that stuff? Or why do you have different money in Beijing and Hong Kong has different money, and just like learning about all this stuff. It's interesting. Very. And my eyelashes and my eyes are like bluish green. So they thought that I was like some celebrity or something because they never see these Westerners come through. So it was pretty funny.
Would random people come up to you and try to get an autograph or a selfie or something?
Pictures. It was pictures all day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was pictures all day. It was funny. Yeah.
That was interesting.
Yeah. But it was good. It was an international business experience. So we went to the stock exchange there and just like learning about the culture and the business and how like people interact from different cultures and how they do business together.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's good. So once you graduated with international business, what was your thought? Maybe go to work with an international company, or what were you thinking?
Yeah, I really like to travel. So I was like, maybe I could do something traveling. When I was in college, I did an internship at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. And so I was applying at a bunch of different places, but Enterprise offered me a job when I graduated college. So I was like, still looking actively because I didn't want to rent cars necessarily, but I was applying, and I only had a couple job offers. And so I was like, I like Enterprise. There's some opportunity for growth. So I ended up working at Enterprise right out of college. Yeah. And I worked there for 6 years I went through their whole management trainee program and then went into sales and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's pretty crazy.
That's good. I went to College Park here in Maryland. I graduated with econ, and one of my good buddies with econ, also when he graduated, went through the whole enterprise program. But he was always very active. He was he was a black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He was Brazilian, and I mean, in the end, he became a Montgomery PD cop. And
wow.
I think now he's a detective with Montgomery County. But I can see that. I couldn't see him at Enterprise because he would tell me, he's like, man, they have me washing cars and I'm also selling, and you do everything. And I don't think he lasted long, but I think now what he's doing, he's very happy with.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely it's a rude wake up call when you have a college degree and you're getting your tie sucked up in the vacuum and trying to sell someone something, and it's like, it's hard. That's why the management trainee program is like, really it's for like 1 year, and then you get promoted to assistant manager, and then you kind of learn to run a business, and then you go to branch manager and you're actually running a local service business. And so they push you through pretty good, and they give you, the crazy thing to me was like, I was 24, 25, and I was responsible for 300 cars. If each car is worth, $20,000, you have a $6 million assets that you're responsible for.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to use those assets to make money, right?
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. They give you that responsibility at a young age.
You moved up all the way to branch manager there?
Yeah, I was branch manager, and then I went into corporate, into sales, and I was selling fleet management to local service businesses.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And you did it for 6 years. So then in the end, what made you decide to maybe transition?
Yeah, it's kind of a crazy thing. How do you do digital marketing? So when I was 25, I had just become a branch manager, and I have a money, I like paid off my student loans and did all this stuff. And my wife is a kindergarten teacher. So all her friends had student loans. And so they would ask me like, hey, how did you pay off your student loans? How do you pay off your student loans? So I started this blog called Young Adult Survival Guide. And basically I was teaching young people how to pay off student loans and set up goals and do all this stuff. And so I learned from this blog experience how to do digital marketing and like build a brand online and get publicity and get subscribers and do all this stuff. And at the same time, I was running a local service business, day in and day out, managing your employees, managing your P&L and all the stuff. And so when I was selling to local service businesses, I would go out on sales calls, right? And we would be talking about their fleet and stuff. And I'd just be like, hey, what are you doing for marketing? And they would kind of talk to me like, oh, you guys should try this. You should try this. And they're like asking me questions, And so my blog was doing pretty good. And I decided to leave Enterprise and just try and do my blog full time. and did some traveling around the country and stuff. And then when I came back, one of my clients from Enterprise was like, hey, maybe you could come work with me and be the director of business development. And so I went and worked there for a year, and I realized like they need digital marketing and business development. And that's kind of how I got into this.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier as far as the student debt, and you have a great online presence. And I think it was like over 30,000, 30 to 40,000. Is that right? Of student debt that you took care of. Can you go into how you did that?
Yeah. So from a lifestyle perspective, I was working at Enterprise making about $48,000 a year. And when I graduated, so my mom raised me, and my dad was really involved in my life, but I just lived with my mom growing up. And when I moved away to college, my mom got remarried, and she moved to Southern Maryland. So I didn't necessarily I could have gone and stayed with her, but I called my dad and was like, hey, do you mind if I live in your basement? And here's my plan. I'm going to work at Enterprise, make $48,000 a year, and I'm going to pay off my student loans in 12 months. And like, I'm just going to grind it out like nothing. Like, I'm not going to spend anything. And in return, I can't pay any rent, but I'll do whatever else. Like, I'll be an on-call babysitter. I'll cut the grass. I'll do anything. And so I just like set up a really strict budget and just grinded. And yeah, basically that was it. I lived off $500 a month for gas and insurance for the car and stuff and cell phone. And then I just $2,500 every month just going to student loans.
That's great. You had that discipline, especially at a young age, Phil.
Yeah. When I was 16, my mom signed us up for Dave Ramsey. I don't know if you know Dave Ramsey.
Yes, I've heard of him.
Yeah, she signed us up for Dave Ramsey. And, he's talking about changing your family tree and not living check to check. And I'm like, this sounds like he's talking about me, our life.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working at Ruby Tuesdays making, whatever, $7.25 an hour or something. And I'm like, I'm living check to check. I need to figure this out,
Yeah.
So it just resonated with me. So I always knew, like, when I come out of college, I'm going to come out swinging. Like, I'm going to go big,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounded when you were selling the fleet services through Enterprise to some of the local businesses, you would always start talking about marketing and digital and what you're doing or what they're doing and suggestions, right?
Yeah. So naturally you want to, as a salesperson, you want to be a resource for your clients. Obviously we are experts in what we do, but at the same time, if we can add value in other areas, we want to show that we can have the whole package kind of thing. Like, hey, we kind of do this, whatever. So yeah, so I would just bring it up and just give them pointers. One of the big ones, I was featured in a lot of stuff with Young Adult Survival Guide. So I would tell them like, hey, here's kind of the process of this. And it helps so much with, if you were to say, hey, I was featured in this article and share it with all of your people, that goes a long way in building a credibility for the business.
Yes.
So I would always talk to them about that. And then in this simultaneously, it would build up my credibility as a salesperson. And they'd be like, man, this guy is a hustler. Like, he's out here doing big things, Yeah.
So you end up leaving Enterprise, and then you said you traveled. And when was Phlash Consulting established?
Yeah. So my plan was, when I was doing Young Adult Survival Guide, I was like, all right, I'm going to go. And I didn't really have like a revenue plan or anything for that. It was just like, I had these subscribers, I had people coming to my website, but like, how could I make money off of a blog? And so my thought process was, I'm going to go around the country and do news interviews and like build up, like some credibility and like get subscribers all over and do YouTube videos and have people like, the whole thing.
Sure.
And so I bought a school bus and I made it a little tiny home. And then my dog and we traveled around the country for 3 months. And I would go to cities and like, I would like blast all of the reporters in the city and be like, I'm coming through. I'm doing this, da, 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 da. I can be at your station and you can interview me and tell my story or something like that.
Yeah.
So as I was traveling around, I was kind of thinking like, what am I going to do after this? And I didn't really start, but I bought a URL for another marketing type of name. And I was like, I think I could do this, but I don't really know how it would all work out. So when I came back into the DMV, one of my clients, who was my friend on Facebook, he's like, hey, I saw your whole trip around the country. Like, what are you doing? And then he was like, you should come work with me. And I still kind of knew that I wanted to do my own thing, but I didn't really know like what my value proposition was going to be or like how to do it. So when I went and worked for this air duct cleaning company, then it all clicked because it was like the business development, the sales, and the digital marketing, like, boom, like this is what it is. This is how I can help other companies. Yeah, so I worked with him for I still work with him to this day, but I worked with him as an employee for almost a year. And about a year in, he saw like a bunch of stuff change in his business, like online scheduling, accounts receivables, profitability, revenue, like everything was moving in the right direction. And it's a 25-year-old business. He just needed someone like me, you know? So he starts telling all his friends like, oh man, I got this guy. And they were like, oh, do you think you could sit in on my manager meeting? And so then the owner would be like, hey, my friend wants you to go and sit on your manager meeting. Can you just kind of share with them what we're doing? So I go in there and they'd be like, so what are you doing over here? And I tell them like, well, how do you do that? How do you do that? And so I started kind of crafting my proposal, you know, like, okay, if I could productize this service and say, okay, I can do this for you for this price, then I could kind of start to figure out how this is going to work.
Sure.
Yeah. And kudos to my old boss, because he was like, hey, I really think you should go out and do this. Like he was all about it. And he actually named the company Phlash. It's my name, Phil, my wife's name, Ash. Phlash.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
Yeah. So him and I go to lunch and we're talking about this and he's like, hey, you should go out and do your own thing. And it should be called Phlash Consulting for Phil and Ash, and you're going to crush it. I'm like, dude, like this guy, I always tell him, but I'm so thankful for him because he kind of like got me going, you know?
That's amazing, Phil. You know, there are not many people out there who actually, especially as an employee, they don't want to, they're more like, I don't want to lose this person. There's value.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Instead of, hey, go out to the world. You have so much more to offer than just being with me.
Yeah. And we did butt heads a little bit because like I was in the enterprise growth mindset. Like I'm on go mode. Like I'm coming out, I'm a young guy. I'm just like ready to crush it. Where he's been doing this 25 years and he's got like a young stallion, you know, trying to like rear him in, like, hold on. So it was good for the time to get him up to speed. But then it was like, this guy's going to go crazy if I don't unleash him, you know, kind of thing. So yeah, it was really good. It was really good.
And you were with him for about a year, you said?
Yeah, I worked with him as an employee for a year. He's still my client to this day. And yeah, we still talk all the time.
How was it when you came to the air duct cleaning? Is that what they did? Is that what they do? Okay. Yeah, so how was it when you came there, some of the things you implemented in that business and how did it affect it afterwards?
Yeah. So from a technology perspective, I didn't know what I didn't know walking in the door, but I knew that I could figure things out from technology because I ran the blog, right? Like I knew that I could build these plugins on a WordPress site and like figure it out. Mm-hmm. So when I went there, I was like, you know, we charge, you know, $500 for duct cleaning and it's pretty straightforward. Why do we have people calling us to try and get pricing? We can just put it on our website and have them schedule. And then maybe we could connect it with our CRM and then have it all just flow through automatically, right? So I'm like thinking like, man, this could all be done. And I'm talking to him like, why has no one done this? He's like, because no one knows how to do it, right? So I'm like, okay, well, let's build this and like do this. So we build all the whole funnel and the automation and it starts like cranking. And typically I started there in August. Typically, you know, no one gets their ducts cleaned in January, February, March. That January, February, March, they were never slow. Yeah. So they just kept the hopper going and he would tell you if he was here, but their profitability it tripled over the time that we worked together. And I mean, this is a pretty big company. So yeah, a lot of stuff has happened from a digital marketing perspective.
Sure.
I started to realize like, okay, well, people are coming to the website, but how are they coming through the funnel? And then, well, what happens on the front end, the SEO? How are people finding us? The search engine optimization. Mm-hmm. So what's our process look like for that? And then most digital marketing companies, what I found was we were working with a digital marketing company at the time, and they never tracked all the way through on the CRM to say like, well, is this actually a profitable job? Are we actually closing this and making real revenue from this? Or are they just saying like, oh, we got you 10,000 impressions, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's great, but they weren't good impressions. They didn't generate any money. And so I'm like, well, what if there's a company that could do all that stuff, but then also like say, hey, I noticed over here that we're missing this area of opportunity. Maybe we could do this instead, like the consultative side of things.
Sure. I can just take this anywhere now with all this information, which is fantastic. It's great. I love it. So when you mentioned the impressions, just for those out there who may be listening in the audience, what does that mean? And once they know what that means, how are you actually able to track it? Like you said, they had this other digital marketing company that said, hey, we have 10,000 impressions, but what does
Yeah,
that mean to the bottom line? How much dollars are coming in?
that's right. And so that was it. It's a question that everyone should be asking in their business. And it's a question that everyone should be able to get an answer to. But most of the times they can't. So an impression is like if you search for commercial real estate agent in Gaithersburg,
Mhm.
Google's going to give you millions of people, all those pages. Each one of those is an impression, even though you don't necessarily see it with your eyeballs. But you want you want to get as many impressions as you can. So you want to get all those keywords, right? Like commercial real estate agent, Rockville, commercial real estate agent, whatever.
Mhm.
Each one of those is an impression, but then on the first page of Google is the top 8 rankings. That's really what you want, is from a website perspective. That's what you want. But then there's also this thing called a local service pack, which is when you search something, you have those 3 things that pop up with like their Google My Business. It has like reviews and stuff and a little map. That's called offsite SEO. And so that's a different strategy. But again, you want to rank on that too. But just high level, what an impression is someone searches something and they see your business. And then how do you track that? You can use Google Analytics, which is what we use. And it allows you to see what queries were searched and how many impressions you got on those queries and what your average ranking was. Right. So, yeah.
So for example, with the air duct cleaning company, you would then try to rank high when it came to air duct cleaning in Rockville, let's call it, right? And then hopefully they show up in the first page of Google.
That's right.
And then that would be an impression.
That's
right?
an impression. Yep.
Okay.
And then someone clicks on that and goes to the website. And then what is the website visitor to lead conversion ratio? Our goal is to get that to 10%. And the way that we calculate that is when someone fills out a form on your website, we add it as a goal. So then it says, okay, someone filled out a form on your website. So if you had 10 people go to your website and you got 2 forms or 2 calls, you know that your website user to conversion ratio, right?
Yes.
And if I know that, hey, if I gave you 10 leads today, what are you going to close at? Maybe 40%. What's your average sale? You can start to work through the cycle of impressions, visitors, leads, all the way through.
Okay, I see. And you're able to track then, Phil, as far as this person came through whatever search on Google, which led to Air Duct Cleaning ABC website, which they filled out a form, and now we're calling them for an appointment or whatever.
Yep. And so we took it a step further. We have this automation tool called Flashlight. And what it allows you to do is, let's say a web form comes through the website, it can automatically send out a text and an email to that person. And then it can automate a response saying, hey, this is Phil from your favorite HVAC company, and a text message. And you can also drop a voicemail on them and say, hey, just reaching out to schedule your appointment. And it's all automated. So then they're calling you back or texting you back, and then your CSR is just sitting there talking to them.
That's great.
Yeah. So we try to take it from the beginning all the way to the end to just streamline the whole process.
So basically with this air duct company, you streamlined everything, you automated everything just put a lot of tech into their website and their business process, right?
Accounts receivables, automating the accounts receivables, online payments, just trying to what happens with these local service businesses, they get so stuck behind. And so it's like, let's work with a consulting company that can implement these strategies, but then also work with us to handhold us along the way and say hey, here's what we got to do. Here's this, here's that,
That is true. There a lot of these, unfortunately, are behind when it comes to tech. A lot of the service, the local company, whether HVAC, plumber, you name it.
Yep.
And they do need that help.
Yeah. And that's why they partner with us, because it's like, if you just want to use the Flashlight tool, the automation tool by itself, by all means, you can just use that. If you want us to consult with you and, build these processes and work with you on a monthly basis for the SEO and all the digital marketing stuff, then yes, we can do that as well. But we try to help as many ways as we can. Yeah.
And in that 1 year period, you said you took them to 3 times revenue from what they had before you arrived?
Yeah, I would say that over probably 2 or 3 years, they got to that point of 3 times.
Okay.
It was a slow evolution, but it was really about playing offense and defense increasing the sales, but then also working on their ARs leaking out the back,
Sure.
but then streamlining the initial stuff, because they had, like I said, those slow months. If you can fill the schedule on those months, it's pretty advantageous. So yeah, we made a lot of impact on that business alone. Yeah.
That meant they also had to grow with personnel and more team members, right?
Yeah, that's right. And so that's the offensive side. And that was the thing when I was talking about, it was hard because we were kind of butting heads. Was like, I wasn't the business owner. And as you know, when you own a business, you have to weigh everything of like bringing on new trucks, new techs, training, all the stuff. I was the director of business development. So I'm all offense, just like, let's throw Hail Marys, let's go, And so we had to bounce back and forth. But just by filling the schedules for those slow periods and even maximizing your schedule. So one example for local service businesses, if you're not doing day before calls, confirming all your appointments, for example, then you're going to have guys show up to people's houses and they're going to cancel. And so then you lose out on that revenue, right? So just put a day before call in place or an automated text or whatever in place. So that way you're not missing out on that revenue. So stuff like that, which you don't necessarily need to get new techs, you just have to be more efficient.
Yeah. And when it comes to text, I mean, there's services or apps that you can do that, software. You don't have to actually hire someone to start. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. With the flashlight tool that we have, it's pretty easy. You can shoot out text for reviews or reminders. You can even automate text messages. So like right now we have a big one for HVAC. It's all the spring inspections coming up. So we can filter down your database by just people in Gaithersburg, and we can send them a text, an email, and a voicemail drop and say, hey, it's time to schedule your spring inspections, and do all of that in a sequence. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
And most of your clients, Phil, now are local businesses?
Yeah, we work with local service businesses. Okay. So it doesn't necessarily have to be HVAC plumbing. We work with like furniture restoration, mold remediation, attorneys, realtors, any local specified type of service business. Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
What would you say drives you and motivates you now?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing for me is when I was traveling around the country, I was literally making $0. And I was just like living the life, right? And it's kind of that thing where it's like, what are you going to do when you're retired? Like, what are you going to do with your life? And everyone's like, oh, it's so great, when you're retired. And it's cool. Like I was going and doing fun stuff. But at the same time, it was like, man, I have these skills, that I could help people. And it's like so fulfilling to say that you found your kind of like calling or whatever. Like I think that for me is the biggest thing. And it sounds maybe cheesy because when I was younger, I used to say like, oh, it's all, I want to make more money. And like, yeah, money is a part of it, but a lot of it has to do with being a resource and like helping people with the thing that I like and the thing that I'm good at. So I would say that's mostly it.
That's good. When you were traveling all this time throughout the country, I mean, I don't know if you were married back then, but I know you were dating, I'm sure, your wife. Yeah. So how was all that with all the traveling?
Yeah. Well, even when I was in Rome, when I studied abroad, it was 3 months in Rome. And that was, it was Skype and Uvu or whatever that Facebook Messenger. No, it was cool. My wife is, when I say she puts the ash in Phlash, she is so supportive. She, think about it. I was working at Enterprise, like life is good, making good money. And then I'm like, yeah, I was sitting across from her. We were dating. We weren't married at the time. I wouldn't do it married. I wouldn't recommend that. We were dating and I'm like, hey, I really think like I want to do this before we get married. And I was reading like the 4-Hour Work Week and stuff, about like trying to like go and do stuff that's cool. So I'm like, why not me? Like I had no expenses. I had set myself up so good, so like, it's like, let's go do something fun for once instead of just like saving all our money and stuff. So yeah, no, it was good. She was like, well, this is going to be crazy. And what are you going to do for work? All the normal questions,
Sure.
We'll figure it out. And then when I got back, I didn't even have a job, but I was like, I went and asked her dad, hey, can I get engaged? And he's like, you don't have a job. And I'm like, I know, but I'm working on it. Like, it'll be good. Don't worry. So it was cool. She's a teacher. So she was in school when I was traveling. So
okay.
it wasn't that bad.
Phil, you mentioned when you were going to all these different towns and places and cities throughout the country, you would reach out to local reporters so they can meet you or you can meet them at the station. Was all that working to promote and get awareness to what you were doing?
Yeah. So two pieces on that. The first thing is there's a website called helpareporter.com, and I highly recommend that to anyone. And you can sign up, it's free. And every 3 times a day, reporters will send you queries on like the real estate market for commercial in the DMV or something like that. And then they're looking for subject matter experts to interview to put into their articles. So when I found that out about my blog, I just went crazy. Like every single day I would be on that thing, like, let me send these people this stuff back, and they would put me in their articles.
Oh, they
And
would.
so, yeah, so I slowly got a little bit of traction in the articles, and then I would just take that traction and I would go to the next level with it. So like I would get in a small article, and then I would go on like Yahoo and I would look up other articles that I should probably be in, but for whatever reason, they were overlooking me. Yes, And so I would go and find the reporter, and I would tweet at them or like message them or find their email. And I would say, hey, I was just featured in this article. I just read your article about this, and I really think that you would be interested in interviewing me for your story. Right. I hit people so hard. And then people started getting back to me from like CNBC and Yahoo Finance and Business Insider. And I started just like saying, oh yeah, that's good. That's good. And so they started putting me in their articles. And then I was in a Forbes article, like a lot of stuff. And then, so when I would go to the reporters, I would do the same thing. Like, hey, I'm not sure if you heard, but I was just featured in Forbes, and maybe I'm a DMV kid from Germantown. Maybe you'd want to interview me and talk about my story and all this stuff. And they'd be like, wow, that's pretty credible.
Yeah.
And so then when I would travel, I would just do the same thing with reporters. Like, hey, I was just on Fox 5 in Nashville. I'm coming through town. I was featured in Forbes. I'm doing this trip. It'd be cool to stop by and tell you about my story. I'm sure your viewers would love it or something like that. And then they would be like, okay, sounds good. So
that's awesome. That's great advice. Anyone could use, whether you are selling or promoting a product or service.
Anyone. And it's so good because you can share it with the people. Like, you don't want to be a jerk about it, but still in your sales calls and stuff. And they're like, oh, you've only been doing this for, 3 years or 4 years. Like, hold on, I've been featured in this stuff, I know what I'm doing, that kind of stuff. Or like sharing it on your website or sharing it in an email blast. If you do newsletters and stuff, there's a lot of ways you can use it. And even if you don't have a business and you're just a normal person that has a job, if you have that on your resume, like featured on this, and I did this and this, it just shows that you care about what you're doing and that you're willing to put in the work,
Yeah, definitely. It shows a huge initiative that not many have out there.
Yeah. And to put on your resume, like imagine if that's your header on there, like featured in this, this, and this, talking about whatever you're applying for. Yeah. It's like, who is this guy?
Phil, I'm curious, have you used that same method for your own consulting company, and also maybe some of your clients have implemented some of that?
Yes. Yeah. So the hardest thing is for me, I could go on there. We were in Business Insider and a couple other ones, CNBC and some other things. And now that I have the relationships with the reporters, I can pitch them ideas.
Okay.
So I'll pitch them an idea. Hey, maybe we could talk about this, or maybe we could talk about that, which is cool. But for my clients, it's really, really hard because I need their subject matter expertise put in there. So like I could send them the queries that I think would be good for them, but you have to be pretty on it because these reporters, they're looking for the data quickly and you got to get in quick.
Okay.
So it's been really difficult to try and scale that. I know that there's PR companies out there that literally that is their model, is take hero pitches and send it to these people and build relationships with these writers.
Got it. So for example, let's say a fire restoration company, they physically would have to be into this website looking where a reporter needs some information. And maybe there was a fire in Germantown and maybe they can give their 2 cents into that or something, right?
Yeah. So you would sign up for Help a Reporter 3 times a day. They would send an email out to all the subscribers.
Oh, so they contact you. You don't even have to be logged in there. Okay.
No, they'll send you an email and it'll have all the queries of people that they're looking to interview.
Within your chosen selected field, let's say it's a fire or something like that, right?
Yeah, it's not that narrow. It'll be like business or environmental or fashion.
Oh, okay. I understand. Okay.
So you'll get probably like 30 queries. So what I usually do is I'll just do the Control F and just search like business, technology, marketing. and then I'll see if there's any queries that I like. And then I'll also look for like bigger people. And then there'll be ones in there, and they might not be as specific as like fire restoration, but they'll be looking for business owners about the impact of COVID 2 years later, for example.
Sure.
That was a huge one. PPP stuff, right? All that stuff. They were looking for tons of people for that. Technology is a big one that they're always asking about for businesses. Yeah.
And these are articles that are local. It could be also in publications, online, digitally, everywhere, right?
Yeah, what I would recommend is these are going to be more national publications, but you could niche down. Like what I did was I would get on a national one, and then I would go to my local people, right? And be like the Moco Show, for example. I was on one, so I hit up Moco Show on Facebook and was like, hey, I was on this, and this, maybe you want to put me on your thing or whatever it is. Because instead of going the other way, you can just go backwards.
Yeah.
That's
true. I mean, you were just saying you did that. You were like, hey, I was featured in Forbes. How about feature me now here at some locals?
Yeah, exactly. And the news, they love that stuff. And, they're looking for good stories.
Yeah.
Phil,
you've done so much in your career, and you still have a long, long way to go. What is it that you're most proud of thus far in your business career?
I would say the most proud of, and this is something that I learned from the duct cleaning person and enterprise, is the ethics. I took a class in college, business ethics, but it never really clicked for me until I had my own business, which was like, we have something that a lot of people do need, but it might not be the right fit, our product, for them. And it's very challenging sometimes if you're only motivated by making more money to say like, hey, you're not a good fit for us, but I think you could probably do this or this or this, or let me at least set up a one-to-one with you and like show you what I think you could do. You don't have to pay me anything. I'll just do it. Right. And I think for me, that's something that like I can sleep good at night because I feel like I will do the right thing every time for the customer or person. And so, yeah. And that's something like in our business, we always talk about. It's just like, is it the right fit? Can they afford us? Like, we don't want someone mortgaging their house to work with us, and then do we think that we would get excited about their stuff? Like, if we can't get excited about it, it's hard to market it, where other companies, they may not feel the same way.
That's good. I know you've been working with all these different types of business as clients. What advice would you give to someone who came to you and wanted to start up a new business? What are some pointers? Yeah. So the free things that you can do that are going to help so much is, first one is get a Google My Business, and Google My Business is free. Go to google.com/business and you can just sign up for it. Get Google reviews. 17% of your ranking is Google reviews. So get Google reviews, respond to Google reviews. And the reason it's so important is because on that search engine results page I was telling you about, that local service pack, those 3 with the map, that is a Google My Business. So if you can get reviews and you can get your stuff on there, that's really good. The second one is to get a newsletter of some sort put together, whether it's like through MailChimp, which is free. They give you 2,000 people free. It will allow you to get people into a subscriber base that then you can contact them on a weekly or monthly basis and just let them know what's going on in your business. So those things, and then set up like a simple Wix website or something. This is something that's like a simple website that's there so that you kind of look pretty legit, and just like have that going for you until you get it going, Yeah. That's all great advice and very free, if not very minimal cost. Yeah. Oh, that's all free. The Wix probably costs you like $10 a month or something. MailChimp is free. Google My Business is free. If you have those 3 things, you can start generating some business. Yeah. With the email blast, what do you typically recommend your clients? How often should they be sending something out? Yeah. So 2 different things there. So like realtors, I would recommend, if you have any activity, definitely blasting that like, hey, this just came out, just sold, all that kind of stuff. And just as it goes. And then having it come out maybe monthly of like other stuff. With most local service businesses, like HVAC, plumbing, that kind of stuff, we recommend just monthly. Okay. And have it more concise in a newsletter. So maybe you have a case study that we help you with, or a Facebook post that's really popular, maybe an article that you read that you think is impactful, and then maybe like a picture of the team, and then also a review, and have it like in a newsletter kind of format and send it out. And in the subject line,
you want it to be not like, your March 2022 newsletter or something, like spring inspections, question mark, or schedule your spring inspection here, or it's time to replace your air filter, something that they can still take away from it, even if they don't read the email.
Yeah, that's good.
Yep.
You have so much knowledge, again, working with all these businesses, and I'm sure, you've been doing great. Are there any specific habits or traits, Phil, that you feel that have helped you day to day?
Yeah, definitely. I'm a huge reader. So I read tons. I have literally stacks of books. Like I read a lot of books. And podcasts. I'm a big podcaster. So the education side, because my thing is like, even if I can't help you, I might be able to give you a podcast or a book recommendation of some sort. Sure. That's like, hey, you should check out this podcast, How I Built This with NPR. Like, it's cool. It talks about how people built their businesses. And like, you might get something out of it if you're just starting a business. So that to me is one of the biggest things I highly recommend to everyone is like, read 10 pages a day, talk to other people that read books, and listen to some podcasts with other people. Because for me, I didn't have any business owners in my family growing up. I didn't know anyone that owned a business. It was foreign to me. Like I had literally no idea what I was doing. And so through books and podcasts, it kind of gives me like a little circle of people that I'm like, oh, this is Gary Vee. Okay, I know, like I trust him and I can listen to his stuff. Or, oh, this is Mike Michalowicz. He has this book. I really like this book. And I like all his books. And like, I wonder what he has to say about it. Or Dave Ramsey. Like, let me Google and see what Dave Ramsey's ranting about today. That kind of stuff.
I'm glad you mentioned that. One of my questions was going to ask you if you had any mentors and what you learned from them, but it sounds like a lot of mentors also came from books and podcasts and listening to things.
Absolutely. Yeah, they don't know they're my mentors, but these people are definitely mentors. Like every day I listen to stuff because it's just, you have to be like, I don't know, for me, I'm always looking for other people to like, what do I need to do next? Yes. What do I need to learn next? Because I don't really have like a framework for my business. It's just kind of like, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense.
And that's true. And I guess you can go anywhere,
Yeah. At one point with my wife, it was like, well, how do we want to scale this? Do we want it to be like a lifestyle business where you enjoy, just like working with a small amount of people, or do you want to actually scale it and bring on other consultants and other team members and stuff? And like, what's going to be the best? And, sure. And that's the beauty of it. It's like, you can kind of go through and do whatever you want. Yeah.
And what did you decide to do?
Yeah, well, because when you asked me what my passion was like, how can I impact people with my skills? If I just kept it small, I would feel like maybe I'm not making the most impact that I could.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's go for it. So that's what we're doing right now. We brought on another consultant, this woman, Kaylin, and she used to work with me at Enterprise.
Okay.
And so, yeah, she's been working with us, and we're trying to hire another person coming up in probably the next month or two. So yeah, we're just going to try and see, what's the worst going to happen? It's going to go back to a small little thing.
Yeah, that's great. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, thanks.
What would you say is your biggest challenge with your role now at Phlash Consulting?
Yeah, the biggest challenge, there's a book for that. The biggest challenge for me is I get stuck in the technician mindset so much instead of being the entrepreneur. And it's like, it's called the E-Myth 2.0. It's a popular book where like, I know so much in the technician role of the business, but at the same time, you have to be, if you want to, grow a business, you have to be a good business owner. And so at what point do you pull yourself out of the secret sauce, and you step up and you start running the business? So that's the biggest challenge right now. It's something that is hard for me because it's also, grappling with like, what do I do best? But then at the same time, how do you scale the business? So yeah, that's it.
Yeah. It's not always easy when you're sort of the day-to-day working in the business, and then you also need to work on it as well. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And so we're trying to get to the point where it's not, and we have a bunch of people that work with us, but it's not just, me doing all the work and also trying to do this. But at the same time, there's specific things where it's like, yeah, Phil should probably do this. Phil should probably do this,
Yeah, and it's also not even in that, because you also, besides obviously doing the day-to-day for your clients, you also have to do it for your business as well to promote it and grow it.
Exactly. Right?
And
the hard thing for us is that we help B2C companies, business to consumer, but we grow B2B. Like we need to do B2B. So it's a completely different strategy.
Yes.
So it's like, we can't just do what we do for B2C because we have to do B2B. Yeah. And so that's been another thing over the past like 6 months to a year, is like, we can't just do B2C because it's not the same thing. There's still some things, but like companies don't necessarily go on Google and search for digital marketing companies and read their Google reviews. They do that, but they also take a little bit of, reaching out to them and videos and all that kind of stuff. So
what would you do differently if you're market? I'm glad you brought that up. What would you do differently as far as if you're clientele, if you're not B2C, but you're B2B?
Yeah. So B2B, you have to always be adding value. And also you have to kind of reach out to them and hit them with a little pain point, So you never want to be spammy. That's something that I don't like to ever be a spammy person. I want to be adding value, but I also want to be adding little nuggets in. So like on LinkedIn, for example, we work with a couple serve pros to help them with just the automation side, texting and that kind of stuff, right? So I made a video, the 3 text messages every restoration contractor should be sending. And then I would connect with all these serve pro people. And then I will send them a message that says, hey, not sure if you're using text messaging yet in your serve pro, but here are 3 free templates you can use for your restoration company. And I'll send them the video, but no call to action.
Sure.
Nothing, right? So it's kind of like that thing, like, oh, I'm not using texting yet. Should I be using texting? Oh, this guy has a platform for texting. Oh, here's some free templates I can use, right? And if they already use it, great. Here's some free stuff that you can use.
Sure.
So you can't do that really for B2C. You can't just go to Facebook and message all these people and be like, hey, have you had your ducts cleaned yet? Like that. They'll be like, dude, you're spamming me, right?
Yeah.
So it takes a little bit of bobbing and weaving, but it's that kind of stuff that, yeah.
And what are some of the feedback you get from some of these companies you reach out to and provide this value?
Yes. So, I mean, this week alone, we had 3 meetings, and with that same example, the 3 texts for restoration companies, we have this database that we pull from all the Google My Businesses, all the emails. And so we'll send them emails about spring inspections. We're doing HVAC right now. Spring inspections are coming up next month, as I told you. So that text, email, voicemail drop, and segmenting your database for a specific city, geographical location. There's no CRMs out there that do it. Service Titan, none of these ones that they all use, none of them do it. So if they want this segmentation and this type of thing, they have to use our service. But at the same time, here's a way that you can automate your spring inspections, right? So what we do is we reach out to them and we give them this thing and say, hey, here's how you do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
What do you know now, Phil, that you wish you would have known at the start of your career?
Yeah. Well, specifically for Phlash, it is, instead of charging hourly rates of stuff, build a productized service, because I got to 40 hours within 1 month, filled up my schedule. It's like, oh, you can't make any more money and you're going to be running around for 40 hours kind of thing. And so it was like, okay, well, now I need to pivot and like build these productized services that I can charge, monthly for, and then have a team of people that are doing the work with me all in this. And everyone's an expert, opposed to my time just being the expertise. So that's something that I always tell people is just do, try and build these productized service. You can do 1 hourly customer to learn what all the problems are, but try to get out of that quickly, because you're going to, unless you want to stay like that, which is fine. So the other thing is growing up, and I always talk about this, but it's like, I was always in the scarcity mindset of like, trying to pay off my student loans. It was always like the money, I'm trying to hold on to it, like I'm trying to always do this, opposed to the abundance mindset, which is like, no, I can add value and I can spend money and I can, I'm not scared, I guess it is. And so for me, I'm kind of trying to shift. I've been trying to shift to that mode, which is like, man, I don't have to be worried about this. I don't have to try and keep my little thing here, So that's something that I've been really working on, like personally.
That must be tough too, especially when, for example, you need to put a certain money and invest in your business to grow it. And that's a risk. And you're like, but let me save this acorn instead of putting it out there. Maybe it can make me a little bit more acorns. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. You hit the nail on the head with that one, because it's like, it's all your money, but it's not all your money. It's the business's money. And like, if someone else was running this business, what would they do? Would they, would they say, Phil, you got it, right? So that kind of stuff. There is a good book called Profit First.
Mhm.
And what that book, it helped me significantly was like, take your money and chop it up into like 5 or 6 buckets. And then as your percentages grow, so let's say you make $100,000 and you put 25% to payroll, for example. If you make 100,000, that's $25,000. And your business will tell you, okay, now you have $25,000 in your payroll. So I need to hire someone, I have the money to hire someone monthly.
Mhm.
So it allows you to see your business and say, okay, I can do this over here. I can do this over here. Instead of like, oh, I made $100,000. Like, let me keep it all.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's good advice there. When you hear the word success, Phil, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Yeah. Success to me is doing what you want when you want to do it. That's really it. It's like, I felt successful when I was traveling around the country because I was doing what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. I feel successful now because I can do whatever I want when I want to do it. I think that there's another layer to that, which is the passive income side of things, of like not necessarily working, but I feel like I'll always be working in some capacity. So yeah, to me, it's just about, it's not about a money thing, because I was making $0 and I was really happy, right? Because happiness is a choice, in my opinion. It's not a destination. And so I just view success as being able to do what you want when you want. And I've been trapped in the rat race of when I was working in the corporate field, and I didn't feel fulfilled and I didn't feel successful. And that was really hard.
That's good. You were mentioning earlier how before you would bill hourly on an hourly rate, and then you changed things and you made products. So for those out there who may be interested in your services, Phil, are they specific plans you have? How do you and Phlash Consulting work?
Yeah, so we have 2 things that we sell. The first one is a fully outsourced consulting digital marketing, where you would work with one of our consultants. We'd work with your business. We would do the digital marketing side of things. We'd work with you in your side of your CRM, or building these funnels like we're talking about, and helping manage that side of stuff. And we charge typically around like $2,500 to $3,500 a month, depending. It could be a little bit more, but right around there. And then I know, because in my BNI, people are, that's a lot of money when you're starting out, or even, if you're not at $1 million in revenue, it can still be a lot of money. So we're really targeting those type of companies that have maybe, 5 or 10 routes out there, million and above revenue. But what we did was we built that tool, which is called Flashlight, which is basically, it's a done by you option, which is like, we'll give you the technology and help you with templates and get you set up, but it's really designed so that you can just run it yourself. And it's the end result of like getting leads and stuff. And that's $395 a month, $395 a month. So we kind of just sell that as a standalone thing. And then we just had a meeting yesterday where we were pitching that, and he's like, well, tell me about your other services. And we told him, and he's like, I think I want to do that, which is cool. It's an upsell,
Sure.
but at the same time, it's a downsell for other people.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. Coming to an end here now, what does the future look like for you in Phlash Consulting? What is the next couple of years?
Yeah, I have our goals right here. So our goal is to get to 100 clients by 2025. So we have 3 years to do that. Right now, we're at about 15 consulting clients that we work with on a monthly basis. And so we're ramping up, bringing on consultants, and just going for it.
That's good. When you're not busy working, what do you like to do for fun in your free time?
Yeah, I'm a big hiker. So I love hiking with my dog. I usually walk about 4 or 5 miles a day.
Oh, wow.
Listening to podcasts.
Okay.
So, I walk a lot. I love basketball. I play basketball pretty often. And then spending time with my wife, and hanging out, reading. Nothing too crazy. Just hiking, reading, hanging out.
So when you're walking 4 to 5 miles, is that you walking around the neighborhood, or you're going on hikes daily?
Now that it's nice out, I would definitely will go on hikes. Where we live, there's actually a trail right over here, which is so nice. I live in Frederick, so there's a trail that goes to Lake Linganore. And so that's really nice. But I'll do both. But in my day-to-day, I usually just walk around the neighborhood.
Okay.
I have on my app, I can see how many. I have one loop, and I know that it's like 3.5 miles.
Okay.
And then I walk in the morning, another loop that's about like half a mile. So
That's
Yeah,
good. You get your workout and you're learning at the same time.
exactly. That's what I tell people. It's like, if you can do both, I don't know if you know about this thing called 75 hard.
Yeah, with Andrew Frisella.
Andy
Yeah,
Frisella. Yeah, that's
I've
my
done it.
guy. Oh yeah, I did it too. Okay, so I learned there, like, okay, I can obviously read my 10 pages, but if I just bring like my water bottle and drink this while I'm walking, like do all the stuff, just like knock it out, like drink one bottle on one walk or one run, and then drink it on another run. It's like you got 2 bottles out. So
There you go. You do your 2 45 minutes right there.
that's what I'm saying. You hit the water and the 45s. It's just, yeah.
Oh, awesome. Phil, if people want to learn more about you and Phlash Consulting, where can they go to, please?
Yeah, you can go to flashconsulting.com is good, philrisher.com or flashlight.com, or maybe my LinkedIn, Phil Risher. And yeah, definitely look forward to connecting. I'm happy to help. Even if you have questions like with the Harrow thing or anything, just reach out to me. I'll be happy to help.
Phil, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's really a pleasure.
Yeah, man, you got it. Thanks for having me.
Of course, the pleasure's all mine. Take care.
Thanks, you too.